In the back of the books, both of them, I try to give so many skills,
Yeah.
that you can use to what to say and what to avoid saying, strength building things, and if people would use them, it would work. I've seen it work. That's why I'm not retired. The day that I stop hearing aha moments is the day I will stop doing this. But I hear them still to this day.
Welcome back to A Hard Reset. I am super excited about today's episode because this has taught me to be a better communicator. It's taught me to be a better husband, a father, a leader. There's so many things that have come from what God has done with Kathleen Edelman and kind of her passion and mission in life. And so welcome, Kathleen Edelman.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's a big deal.
This is a huge deal for us because for us, we basically talk about all the different colors and how easy it is about what you have built in the books and the classes and all that stuff. And we've used you almost as a therapist to kind of help us through communication with our girls, but also with our staff. And then we've brought you to do a class for our staff to teach us all. So this is a huge deal. So thanks for making the time.
Of course. Once we're friends, we're forever friends.
Yeah,
That's
I
one of my
love that.
statements.
I love that.
it.
I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
It's really simple. People speaking unkindly to each other. I mean, I can remember being 8 years old and watching people talk and go, why do they have to talk so unkindly to each other?
Yeah.
And to this day, all these days later, years later, decades later, it still really bothers me because it's just, to me, so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary.
In a world, Traci has a shirt, in a world where you can be anything, be kind.
Yeah.
With your words especially, right?
Yeah. You have the power to do that.
Mine's more like, I just hate trash in the sink. I also don't like that. Chewing with your mouth open.
Yeah.
But that's so good. I mean, because in a world where like right now, everything is so polarizing, right? We have like the news networks and people just are constantly arguing with each other. So in a world where we can just build each other up, why don't we just build each other up?
Just take a beat, right?
So my question to you is, growing up as a kid, what did you think that your life was going to be like?
Well, I'm from a big family, and I really honestly don't remember thinking like, oh, I'm going to be this or that. I didn't grow up in that era that I was the first one in my family to even go to college. So that's kind of giving away my age. But, you just really, what I love about remembering being a kid is being in the moment. And my family created an atmosphere where you could just be a kid, So, of course, we sang like we were going to be, singers on a stage.
Sure.
And, we tried to do cartwheels like we were going to be gymnasts.
Right, the Olympics.
It was almost like anything was possible.
I love that.
And just be a kid. Yeah. So I really can't say that I projected anything at that point.
Kathleen and I met the first time. I don't know if you remember this, and maybe you can't share it, but I can. We met the first time when Martin and I were going through a hard reset ourselves. And I reached out to a friend saying, hey, do you have a book I can read that might help me communicate better with my husband? Yeah. And she said, I do have some books, but I have something even better. And referred you to me. And this was in the middle of the pandemic. And we met in a basement, via Zoom.
Yes.
And so you showed up right in the middle or the beginning of our hard reset and have changed how we communicate. So will you tell our audience a little bit about your hard reset or how you came into the role that you are in today?
Well, if we just revisit what I just said about being 8 years old, people say you'll find your calling and your purpose and what breaks your heart. And since I can remember being little and hearing people speak unkindly, I went into communication. That was my thing.
Okay.
But where there was a reset was when my husband and I were driving from California to Maryland, and I listened to some cassette tapes. And those cassette tapes were by a woman named Florence Littauer. And that cassette tape literally changed the trajectory of what I did. Because I said, I have to learn everything I can about temperaments because it has to affect communication. Like it just literally was like a reset button, right? And then I spent years and years just researching and figuring out and strategizing and putting it together. And it literally has been now, I've done this for almost 40 years. And it was the best reset ever because it has literally changed so many lives.
Yeah.
I am incredibly blessed.
Yeah. It's definitely changed our life. Since you do so much better job than I do explaining it. So what did you hear on those cassette tapes, or what have you collected the last 40 years to create? Tell us a little bit more about the temperament. So that's where it came from, but maybe more about what it is and how it's changed so many. And I'll definitely be able to speak into it, but it'll be better coming from you first.
Well, there's a history of it because temperament has been around for over 2,000 years. That's the most intriguing thing. It is not personality, and we can talk about that. That's another whole podcast. But temperament, because it's innate and it's unchangeable, it's how people communicate. It's the language that they speak. It's their core motivation. So what I really noticed was when I started teaching the 4 temperaments, and they have Greek, Latin, medical names, sanguine, yellow, choleric, red, melancholic, blue, phlegmatic, green. I put colors with them to make it a little easier to remember. But what we understand is that they each speak their own language, and they each hear their own language. So what I figured out after doing this was, if we can just, and I remember doing this with you guys, when Martin speaks, you hear. And when you speak, he hears. And there's all this gray area. And it's in that gray area that miscommunication happens. And we have to remember that most miscommunication is not intentional.
Right.
So it's not like you're trying to miscommunicate in a marriage, or a boss to an employee, or a parent to a child. It's just that I speak blue, you hear yellow. I have to learn to speak yellow, not become yellow, but speak yellow in order to love you better. And that's what I've unpacked, and I've seen it successful. I've seen marriages change overnight.
It is
I've
so
seen
true.
parent-child relationships restored. I've seen businesses turn on a dime just with these little adjustments of
Changes,
how we speak.
There's so many things I love about what you've built. For me, the best thing that I have seen is just the colors, right? Because phlegmatic, right, and choleric, like who wants to learn those things? But if you want to talk about green, yellow, reds, and blues, like it just makes it so easy.
Even our teenagers use it. They'll be like, Mom,
My
she's
teacher.
yellow. My teacher is so yellow. You should have seen the drama behind her backache this week at school. Like, it's so... But she would never say, "Oh, she's sanguine," or she wouldn't say that. She would she knows the colors. And it's funny when we communicate with other people that don't know the colors, I'll forget. I'll be like, sounds like she's a yellow. And they're like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
So tell us more about the colors and what those represent in each temperament.
Well, the yellow is, there's a chart in the book, and the chart is the foundation, because we first have to realize that there's some temperaments that are extroverts, some are introverts, some are task-driven, some are people-driven, right? And when we talk about extrovert and introvert, we're talking about communication styles. We're not talking like Martin loves to be around a lot of people. No. Martin expresses emotions and is an outward processor. That's what extrovert means in communication, right? Okay. You have no filter.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're going to talk before you think.
Correct.
Unlike me, who's an introvert, I'm blue, I'm an inward processor. So I'm going to think before I talk, okay? So you have the red, yellow, extroverts, blue, green, introverts.
Okay.
And then you have people and tasks. So the red and the blue are task-driven people. Even though I'm an introvert, I'm task-driven. So I'm going to be thinking, but I'm going to want to get things done, right? Where the yellow and the green are people connectors. Everything is who's going to be there. How are we going to connect? Is the team coming? It's always people versus task. So right then, if we just knew that part in temperaments, you can already start going, oh, that's my daughter, or that's my husband, or that's my employee, right?
Yeah.
And that's the foundation.
Yeah.
Well, the yellow speaks the language of people and fun. The choleric red speaks the language of power and control.
That's me.
The blue speaks the language of perfection and order, and the green speaks the language of calm and harmony. So again, once you understand the strengths and weaknesses of each, and what separates me from personality assessments is the innate needs, you can literally just listen to understand, not listen to reply. And once you start hearing the words somebody uses, you can identify their temperament. I would love to live in a world where you don't have to do an assessment. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Like when your girls have children, I hope we've gotten this so down that we're just listening and then we honor that temperament.
Yeah.
Right?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Wouldn't it?
You're so good about listening to the words. And I feel like I do better watching the behaviors than I do the words. I'm still working on picking up the words that go with the temperaments. I can definitely notice the behaviors more.
But behaviors is another key skill to identify a temperament. Because remember, they're going to behave from the core of their motivation.
Right.
Somebody is going to be very impulsive while another person's going to stand on the sideline.
Right.
Somebody's going to be very vocal while another one raises their hand. Those are innate wirings. Those aren't something they're just choosing at the moment.
Right. Comes naturally
Yeah.
from them. Well, I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but the introvert and extrovert is so defined differently when I talk to different people. And so I think you said something interesting, that this is how you define introvert and extrovert when it comes to communication.
Communication.
And
right.
as many times I've talked to you about it, I've never caught on to that.
Yeah.
So is introvert and extrovert defined differently when you're referring to maybe motivation, or what else? How come it's often extroverts are the people that want to be around people all the time, and introverts are the ones that want to be by themselves? Is that just a misunderstanding?
It really is a misunderstanding.
Okay.
And that's why I really say that I want people to get the definitions right.
Right.
Because just think about it for a minute. You're a red, right? You're an extrovert, but you're task driven.
Right. I like to be by myself, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
why
So
is it
people
so
aren't
confusing?
your first connection.
No. Yeah.
And then my husband's like forest green, like forest green, which I love the greens because this in and of itself confuses people. He's an introvert that likes to be around people. See, if you go with the mainstream definition, that doesn't even make sense, right?
Where did the mainstream come from? Or is there a place where that does apply?
It does apply. I mean, for me as a blue, I'm an introvert and I'm task driven. Like if I speak at an event where there's 2,000 people in the Q&A and I'm talking to 100 people, I can get very overwhelmed and exhausted. Okay. He would probably get energized by that.
Right.
So in that particular situation,
Okay. That mainstream definition applies where it comes from.
That mainstream definition could definitely apply.
Okay. I've always wondered that because it is my when we have a child that's blue, but she actually thrives in situations where she's excited and will do adventurous things, goes to camp, sleepaways, but goodness, she needs to be by herself to recharge.
Yep. Well, it's not even so much to recharge. Remember, one of the innate needs, and this is another podcast we could do, one of the innate needs for a blue is space and silence.
Yeah.
So it's not even so much a recharging, it's just how we're wired.
Okay.
It's like we have to be in that part where we can process our thoughts.
Right.
When my kids were little, they're adults now, but they knew when I came home that they weren't going to run right up and start asking me a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And it's very important as we talk more about this down the road. It's not just knowing your children's temperaments, but it's about them knowing yours, right? So
Absolutely.
they were not. I went in my office, I shut the door.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't in there for hours, leaving my children out there abandoned.
I
for yourself.
I can totally envision this. Yeah.
But, I needed that time to process, file, just get my mind straight and 5 minutes. And then when I came out, I was a better mom.
Right. I'm the same way.
Do you see? So I filled my
Absolutely.
own innate needs
Yeah.
first so I could
Yeah.
love them better.
Yeah, I totally get it.
So I know that there's like, this works so well in a marital stance and a kid stance. Like, how would this work in the business world?
Oh my gosh, I use this in business all the time. It just imagine you're a business owner, right?
Yeah.
You're a yellow temperament. Maybe you've hired some salespeople and they're a different temperament than you. I'm sure you have them. Don't you have one that's
I think we have a yellow. I actually know we have a yellow, a blue, a red, and a green. It's wild.
Yeah.
Temperament.
So
All doing the same job.
all doing the same
But
job.
differently.
And that's what I love because with temperaments, we never put somebody in a box or we never label them. So, for example, if you say, oh, Martin's so fun, he's yellow. Oh, Tracy's such a good leader, she's red. Oh, Kathleen's so thoughtful, she's blue. No, I would be very upset at that because everybody can be funny.
Sure.
Everybody can be a leader. Everybody can be thoughtful. It's just going to come from the core of their temperament. So this is a perfect example. They're all doing the same job. You as an owner and a manager have to realize that's going to look different from each of those different temperaments. We cannot expect them all to do it the same.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Sure.
Your blue salesperson's going to be very organized. They're going to plan. They're going to research the customer. They're going to have a script.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be more afraid to fail. Like, and if, are they doing it great? Where the yellow might not even know where they're going that day.
We're laughing
That-
because
you know.
you're spot on. We
Yeah.
we are envisioning the same employee that, and like,
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so let's go red.
Yeah, red. You know, they're going to have a goal, and it's not. Now, remember, they're task driven, so they may run over your customers' needs to get to the goal.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that they're using all their strengths because they can hit the vision, but it's how are they going to do it?
Yeah.
Like they go from A to B very quickly, where a blue knows all the obstacles between A and B,
Yeah.
and that might slow them down. Like we might have to encourage them more, you know, and be okay. Your goal's 20, but you know, if you get 12, that's not failure.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's because of the perfection.
oh, if we put a number on them and they don't reach it,
Yeah.
that's you know, I'm not their first innate thought, and people have a hard time with this with blue, is to start to tailspin. Even the healthiest blues, like maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Oh,
You know,
my
maybe
goodness.
this isn't the
Our
right
child
thing for
does
me.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
And that's why we have to know the language to tell them what
And the
they're
why
good at.
behind it. It
Yeah.
helps us as parents and as employers to know.
So
the
let's
why
go
behind
full
it.
circle and go green.
Green is going to be the one that, believe it or not, might be your best salesperson because remember, they're an introvert that's people oriented. So they're going to put the needs of the customer always first. But their lag will be in the details and in the time frame.
Yeah.
Because they
Okay.
do things at a very different pace.
Sure.
Like the red's going to walk by that desk and go, why are you sitting still? You know?
Yeah.
Where the green is, you know, has to do things in segments, but they will get it done, but it'll be in their own time frame. So,
And that's their weakness is like being stubborn, right?
well, they can be very stubborn.
Yeah.
So if they're getting it done and then somebody starts pushing them, you're going to see an immediate slowdown, especially if their opinion isn't asked for.
Yeah.
Like, hey, tell me a little bit about your strategy. What are you thinking about this? Like, tell me how you're approaching that customer.
So bad at that, Kathleen.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at it because it's like I'm impulsive. Like, like let's just spend the next while talking about all my weaknesses. But like I'm
We all
impulsive,
have them, though.
yeah, and
We
I
all
don't do a
have them.
great job. It's like we are a feedback company, right? We have this fun thing that we do. It's not necessarily fun, but we do feedback
But see,
Friday.
you just spoke in your language.
She said fun.
Tracy and I are like, "Is it fun?"
It's hilarious. But getting feedback Friday
Yeah.
and like I care so much, but
Yeah.
impulsively in the moment, it's like, no, it has to be done this. We got to do it this way. And Tracy's always good to just do this.
Hey, let's slow down. Let's
Yeah.
hear what everybody thinks about this.
Yeah.
Get their opinions. Make sure we're doing it the right way, which is
And
very
again,
red.
this is when I work with corporations, like this Friday meeting you have, we hope that we're giving the greens and the blues some days to think about those answers. Because if you put them on a spot,
Yeah.
this is what you're going to get.
Silence.
Yeah.
That.
I do it in an email and give them 4 days instead.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And even our blue temperaments, we have a Monday meeting where we ask a question. It is open and like open, not an emailed version. And our blue temperament asks the first person in for the day to look at the whiteboard and text them the question so that they have the whole time to.
Do you see?
Absolutely.
Like, you cannot stop this message.
Right.
Like people go like, I don't want to be put in a box, and there's all these personality things.
We've heard
And
that too.
I've done this for almost 40 years. There's not anything I haven't heard.
Yeah.
But once you have a taste of it, you cannot unsee what
It
you've
is so
seen.
true. It is so
even
true.
if you want to push back, it doesn't matter because you're going to see it in Publix.
Yeah.
You're going to see it at the school. You're going to see it in a client.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I
We
bet
use
you
it.
could tell me a story of each of the temperament
Absolutely.
client.
Absolutely. And we do use it with our clients. It's very helpful. And it's not, and maybe this is something you can speak on too, because I don't want it to come across as manipulative. We're not trying to manipulate our customer we just want to speak to them in a way that they'll understand it and deliver the information about our product and our service in the way that they need to hear it.
Exactly. To me, that's loving them better.
Right.
I mean, to me, that's not manipulation at all.
Right.
That's giving them grace and honoring how they're wired. It's, one of my rules is we never, ever use the temperaments as a weapon or as an excuse.
Yeah.
So using it in a manipulated form would not go well with me.
Right.
But if I'm going to love you better, I already know you're a red.
Yeah.
I cannot unknow that now.
Right.
So what I teach is paradigm shifting. I have to I don't have a drip of red in me. So first of all, I have to learn the language. And I want to tell your listeners, I am not a rocket scientist. But the reason I can speak all the temperament languages fluently is because I talk about temperaments every day.
Yeah.
And that application is what changes it, right? So when I know I'm going to talk to Traci, I take off my blue glasses, I put on red glasses. Again, I don't become red.
Right.
But we have to remember that as I speak, if I don't change my lens or my words, they're going to come out blue. But they're going to go through a red filter
Right.
before they hit your ears. And that's why we hear, well, that's not what I meant. You didn't say that right. That hurt my feelings. Why would you offend me like that? And you're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
That's not what I said.
Yeah.
Right? That's why the books, I said this, you heard that, right?
Yeah.
But if I take a beat, one of my non-negotiables is the power of the pause. If I can take a beat and I can go, "Ugh, I want her to hear and understand me. And I change the words. Every word you use is a word you choose. And I change those words to words you can hear
Yeah. That's
that are
right.
red words.
Yeah. Words I can hear. It's not manipulation. It's words that I can
like,
receive.
You're going to go, there's something about that, Kathleen.
Yeah.
She
I
gets
love
me.
that. Yeah.
And I hope you feel more heard and understood. And that's what your client's going to hear.
Right.
And they're going to, there's something about that reset
Right.
roofing. Like they get me. They gave me, for me, pretend I'm one of your clients. I got all the details.
Right.
I got the bottom line. They're answering my questions quickly. And they're
on
giving me
time.
time to process.
Yeah.
You're going to have every blue customer.
Yeah.
Right?
It's awesome. That's awesome. Is there anything we're missing on the temperaments that you wish people knew and heard, the audience?
Oh my gosh. Do you have a couple days?
Yeah. Okay.
There's so much about the
Highlights?
temperaments.
Or maybe you could give us some highlights on what we should come back to next time too, even.
Yeah. I just think everybody needs to stop and take a beat and see how God designed them.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't make mistakes.
Right.
Right.
I love that.
So, and I know I've talked to both of you about the life priority target.
Yeah.
You know, you came in this
center.
world alone. You're going to leave alone. Your spouse is icing on the cake. Your children are sprinkles on the icing. But you have to honor him with your design every day.
Yeah. He's the center of the target.
He is. And if your husband understands your temperament, again, that's great. If your children get it, that's great. But you are responsible for the words that you speak. That's why my mission statement is Ephesians 4:29.
Yeah.
Do not let any unwholesome words come out of your mouth. Only what builds others up according to their needs and benefit all who listen.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul's throwing down the challenge right there. Right?
Benefit those that listen. I
Benefit
love that
those
part.
who listen.
Yeah.
Right. This means is even if somebody's walking by and they hear our discussion, they're blessed by it.
Right.
Right.
It's got to benefit them. It's not about us. It's about benefiting them.
So if I'm brand new in learning the temperaments and the colors, like what advice, I mean, obviously read the book, but what advice would you say to me as a husband who wants to communicate better with their wife, right? So I know that Traci's read, and I know in the heat of the moment, like we have this marriage issue going on.
These are hypothetical.
These are, yeah, of course, we never fight. How would I put on those red glasses so that my red talk would be,
Your words
my
would benefit,
words would benefit Traci?
Well, the first thing that we have to understand is you cannot give what you don't have. So if you haven't understood the temperaments for yourself, you have nothing to give Traci.
Do you mean understand for yourself, like his own, or just all four of them in general?
You have to start with your own first.
Okay.
Like I have to understand. I go through a stair step with when I'm helping people. It's acceptance, awareness, application, authenticity. So the first step is acceptance. You have to accept how you're wired. You can go all day long and I could go, I wish I was more extrovert. I wish I was more people oriented. I'm not.
Yeah.
Like the day I just go, that's not how I'm wired is a very freeing day, right? Then there's awareness. Like, what is the difference of the temperaments? Like, what's the difference between a blue and a yellow or a red and a yellow? Like, how does that look in words and actions, right? That's the next step. That's where most people stop. It's the application step that's going to change your life. We've got to apply it every day in every conversation and not have it be something we do, but be part of who we are, right? God didn't say do a witness. He said be a witness. I don't want you doing the temperaments. I want you having it be a part of your communication. And then when that happens, you become authentic. You're no longer looking side to side to be something you're not, right? You're going within this design is my power, my calling, my purpose. What is it, right? So it's understanding that first, filling that love tank, Martin, that you have so that you can pour into your lovely bride.
Yeah.
And then together you pour into your children.
And I think I have to. So these books are amazing. I've read all of them. We give them to our staff. We have a library of new ones in our office that anybody that comes in, we'll give them it if it comes up for sure. But one thing that I think has helped me with these books when I'm in the application process still is asking people. So if I want to communicate with a yellow, my spouse, then even as much knowledge as I have from these books, going to a friend of mine that's yellow and saying,
Brilliant.
Hey, yellow friend, I would like to say this to my yellow husband. Help me.
Yes.
So that has been the biggest clue or hint that you've given me that I'm like, helps me with the application, because you can read this and know it and be aware. But when it comes to applying it, and I think as a red, I'm like, oh, I got it. This is going to be fun. We're going to go do yard work together. And you're like, oh, no, that didn't work. So asking another friend in that temperament has been a big help.
And
too.
I'm glad you did that, because that's we got to humble ourselves and lean into each other.
Yeah.
Because another yellow, just tell me how you would hear this, or tell me how you would like to hear this. Right.
And with your kids too, asking other moms, like,
absolutely.
Hey, that's been really helpful when you asked that question. It made me think of that.
That's great.
What yellow friend do you go?
Well, usually I go to you to talk to our yellow child.
Oh, God.
Which is smart. I wish more parents would do that. But again, they have to know themselves first.
Right. Yeah. We use it all the time, every day.
So how would people get better at, after reading the book, like what is the next step? Hey, I've read the book. I know a difference between the four colors, right? I'm becoming a really good yellow. So now I can speak truth. What's the next step, and what's level 2?
It really is the application part.
Okay.
I mean, being a blue, nothing in these books is willy-nilly, right? So it's literally all kinds of information, right? So the strengths and weaknesses, that's your first cheat sheet of how the other temperaments, words they're going to use, right? And then the innate needs is your second cheat sheet. Like my innate needs are safety, sensitivity, space and silence, and support. I'm literally going to use those words And if you knew the definitions of those, you would even hear that in how I speak.
Yeah.
Right? So again, it's just that application part. It's listening to understand. It's the power of the pause. It's understanding that you're choosing the words that you use. Nobody's putting those words in your mouth.
Yeah.
And are those words building somebody up or are they tearing them down? And knowing that most people aren't doing that intentionally.
Yeah.
So give yourself some grace, but apply it.
Yeah.
Apply it.
So listen to understand. Traci would tell me, hey, I don't like that when I cooked dinner last night that you sat on the couch and
Instead of cleaning up.
up. So I would listen. So what does that actually mean? Like in practice, listen to understand. Then I would pause.
You would pause. And first of all, you would know all her strength words off her strength chart, right? And this is going to be great. Like you have to know her innate needs. Her innate needs are what? Loyalty, appreciation, credit for work, sense of control, right? So even in the definition of sense of control, Traci doesn't want to be in charge. Most Reds do not want to be in charge.
We just need to know someone is in charge.
Exactly. The definition is everybody pulling their weight and everybody following the plan.
Yeah.
So if the plan was she was cooking dinner and you were to clean up and now you're sitting on the couch, she's taking a direct hit at her sense of control innate need. And that's where your application goes, oh, now I see it. Like I told her I was going to do it. And for a Red, if you say you're going to do it, do it. Right? That's loyalty as well. Right? So you want to pause and go, this is another podcast we can do. Validate, compliment, speaker language. Hey, I know I told you I was going to clean up, and I really appreciate that you cooked dinner. I'm going to get on that right now. How did that sound?
Yeah.
I think for her, me speaking that into her, I mean, this has never happened. This is all a hypothetical scenario.
It just came so naturally. But I think everyone pulling their own weight was something you said too about that is so true. Like, okay, I did this. Now we're all in this together. We all ate this dinner. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not I did this, you did that.
Yeah.
It's, I said this, you heard that.
That exactly.
So something you keep saying is those innate needs.
Yes.
And I know it can be
Game
a whole
changer.
nother, and it can be a whole nother podcast.
Yep.
But you mentioned the blues and you said the reds. I would, if you'll keep with the, share the greens and the yellows. But my specific question that I think is so misunderstood is that it's up to someone else to fill your innate needs. And that's not true. The way I
No.
understand it from you is that you have to fill your own innate needs.
Yes.
So that is something I think is often misunderstood in communication and in
Yes.
relationships when they read this book is like, okay, well now you know my innate needs, you fill
Do
them
it.
up.
Right.
Yeah. And
No.
that's not what it's intended.
No.
So
it's
help
not.
us understand that a little bit more. And I know we haven't, the yellow and the green innate have their own
Well,
innate needs
and you
too.
can even open the book to page 66
Thank
and
you.
you'll see it. We can hold up the chart for the people. It goes back to you cannot give what you don't have.
Yeah.
Right? And in communication, what I've learned over the decades is we love to blame. Like that's the first unhealthy communication. You hurt my feelings. You offended me. You made me angry. No. I mean, somebody could come in this office right now and say something, and I could choose to be angry. You could choose to be offended. You could choose to be hurt.
Yeah.
So who, in essence, is in control of the responses? We are.
We
Not the
are.
person who said it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because, again, it's landing on all of us different because we have different temperaments. So, yes, I can be angry for a second. I can let it sting if it hurts. I'm just not allowed to stay there.
Right.
Like I have to respond to what's, not react to the what that's happening, but respond to the why. Like what is the reason this person is saying this,
Yeah.
right?
We use that with our children all the time.
Because I'm responsible for my
Yeah.
words. I'm responsible for my actions, right? And so I know what my innate needs are. So I am first and foremost responsible to fill my own love tank in order to give anything to anybody. Do you see?
Yeah.
I can't require my husband to do it. It's just like I can't love him to honor God. I have to honor God by loving him.
Right.
So we have to get the directions straight in order to have it work.
So can you give us some examples of how you fill your own innate needs?
You have to know them first. Like
Yeah.
I showed you an example when I came home from work with my kids. right?
Yeah.
That was sensitivity and
Yeah.
space and silence.
Yeah.
Sensitivity for a blue means to be understood, right? It doesn't mean I'm a sensitive person. I'm sentimental, but I'm not necessarily sensitive like Martin is. We share sensitivity, but it looks differently,
Right.
right?
Right.
So in that moment of just teaching my children to give me that 5 minutes, I'm filling my own innate need of sensitivity and support and space and silence. Do you see?
Yeah. So for a red, when I feel my innate need of credit for work or loyalty, I do that through a lot of self-talk and self-truths. But are there other ways to give me some examples
Well,
of how
for
that would be
loyalty,
felt?
you got to show up for yourself.
Okay.
It means being prioritized and knowing somebody has your back.
It's yourself.
Do you
Yeah.
give yourself that?
Yeah.
Like, do you prioritize yourself
Yeah.
and really
What I need.
make your your needs, how you speak, how you exist, right? Sense of control means everybody pulling their weight and following the plan. Most Reds don't have a problem with that. You usually do what you know you're going to do,
Yeah.
right? But are you going too far?
Okay.
Is it not enough? Are you using your, ability to delegate,
Too
right?
much. Or yeah.
The one that gets it confused with Reds as well is appreciation and credit for work. A lot of Reds think that means the same, but it doesn't.
Right, okay.
Appreciation is inward. Credit for work is outward.
Okay.
So you even as a Red need to understand that. Are you appreciating the things you got done today?
Yeah, yourself, yeah.
Are you appreciating the fact that credit for work is that you built out the studio in 3 days? Like that's amazing, right?
Yeah. But it's all self-talk is what.
Well, it's self-talk. But who talks to you the most? Always.
God and myself.
Yourself, right? Yeah. Like we could do a whole podcast just on self-talk.
Yeah.
Like most people do not understand that they communicate with
Right,
themselves
okay.
the most,
Okay,
right?
in your head, yeah.
So what are you saying? Are you
Right.
saying strengths? Are you saying weaknesses? Are you
gotcha.
building up or are you
Yeah.
tearing down?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like that is what's filling that love
Got
tank
it.
in order to pour out.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that answers the question. That's a misconception.
Yeah.
After I talk to friends after I give this book and they rely on other people to fill it. And that's
Well,
not
and
the
I
case.
think the yellows have the hardest time with that, to be perfectly honest. Because it's appreciation.
We have a hard time with a lot.
It's attention, approval, acceptance,
Yeah.
affection. Those are hard.
To fill yourself, yeah.
Well, they almost sound needy, right? But they're not. That's your wiring. That's your innate needs. So you have to know what those mean. Approval means to be accepted for who you are without needing to change. But most Reds are telling themselves, I'm too much, I'm too loud, they don't like me, right? No, you're okay. You're wiggly,
was
you're
wired.
loud, you're fun.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
For sure.
Okay.
So let me ask you this question that I didn't tell you about,
Okay.
Oh boy.
which is great.
Blues
Buckle in,
love
Blue.
that.
I know you love this question, but it's going to be fun.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, not for you. But I just watched this podcast. I
Yes.
don't have time to read the book,
Yeah.
right? But I'm in the heat of the battle with an employee or with a child or in the business world with a customer. And I just watched this podcast. Give me the game plan of what to do, even though I don't have all the wiring and know everyone's innate needs. What should I do to just use a little bit of what I learned on this podcast today in that conversation?
That's a hard question.
No, it's not really, because you just don't talk.
Okay.
Like really, no, I'm not kidding.
Keep your mouth shut until you
Let's
read the
just say
book.
it was you and I, yeah. Till you know more about it. But now I know this little bit, and right off the bat, I realize, oh, Martin, that works for me. He's like the polar opposite of me. Now I'm getting like everybody that hears me at an event or they're thinking about somebody,
Absolutely.
right? And now they want to dive deeper. Like that's what you're talking about. And I have an issue with your spontaneity and you're not listening. And you're okay. Now I've already got something. So I either don't talk to you till I know more, or I say things in question form
Oh, that's
to
good.
see
Yeah.
how you're seeing it because you're seeing it through a different lens than me. Okay. I'm seeing strategy, logic, planning, goal. Okay. You seem to me like you're a ping pong ball all over the board, right? So I would have to pause and say to you, Martin, I see that you see this interaction with a client differently than me. Tell me the top 3 things that you're seeing in this client. What's your vision? What's inspiring you to want to even work with them? Tell me more. That ending is what I call caboosing. Tell me more. You want to learn to say.
Yeah.
Because now I'm leaning into you and I'm saying, tell me more. Because I want to know what you're thinking, because it's obviously the polar opposite of
So
what I'm
good.
thinking, right?
Yeah. Tell
So
me more.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question. I always tend to go back to that with when either one of us are frustrated with a work situation. Like, why don't we go in with a question? We won't come across as so angry or demanding.
Always
You do
come in
so
with a
good.
question.
Understand that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is, I'm seeing it this way, but tell me what's going on here.
Yeah.
What do you think's happening? What do you think's the right answer to this? Okay. They feel heard.
Well, just think, one of the innate needs of the green, harmony, right? Feeling of worth, lack of stress, and respect. The definition of respect for a green is being asked for their thoughts and opinions. So if you have that quiet green guy who's moving kind of slow compared to your red salesperson, asking him his thoughts and opinions, that goes right into his love tank.
Yeah.
So you can hit more than one innate need at a time with just one question, because he's going to feel valued and he's going to feel respected
Because we asked his opinion.
because you asked his opinion. Do you see?
That's so good. All I think about is like, as you leave today, it's like, I'm just going to brush up my skills a little bit here.
Well, there's so much stuff in the books. In the back of the books, both of them, I try to give so many skills,
Yeah.
that you can use to what to say and what to avoid saying, strength building things, and if people would use them,
Yeah.
it would work. I've seen it work. That's why I'm not retiring. That's what I told you earlier. The day that I stop hearing aha moments is the day I will stop doing this. But I hear them still to this day.
So, Kathleen, where can people find out more about you and how, I want to learn how to be a better community.
Right.
How do we get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to isaidyouheard.com. That's the website. You can Google my name. I have a lot of free resources that people can find. If they Google, I said this, you heard that, that'll come up. But the website's isaidyouheard.com.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just can't let her leave this podcast with telling everyone how much these books have changed our lives. And I started with this one, which is The Study, correct? And it's incredible. Little chunked into little bits at a time.
Yep.
And time to reflect and answer questions. And then this one, The Grown-Ups Guides to Kids Wiring. Sometimes I feel like maybe people should just start with this if they have kids.
Well, anybody. That's really for any adult that stands in front of a child, whether it's a coach or a teacher, a mentor or a parent, grandparent.
Yeah.
It's really for them all.
But it can be used with anyone. And I feel like
absolutely.
It breaks it down. And for those of you, like you said, maybe they listen to the podcast and they're impulsive and they just want the answers quick.
Yeah.
The colors in the back, you can see it's helpful to get their tips and specific things to say and not say. This has changed the way we parent. And I will say that our girls have just graduated from middle school.
Wow.
And going into middle school, I remember talking to Kathleen about how scared I was to raise two girls because the world tells you that middle school is terrible and hard. And it's going to be a death scenario having two girls in middle school at the same time. But I can truly say that this book has changed that.
That's right.
Because instead of them listening, hurtful comments from girls are still going to happen.
Yeah.
And shaming is still going to happen. And hurt feelings are still going to happen. But training them and us to hear the why behind the pain and where it's coming from. And then to remind them, to validate them, but then to remind them of, hey, what do you think's going on in that child's life? Or what do you think their temperament is? And it just helps move the whole process. The why behind it, validating their why, understanding the person that's saying it. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And it doesn't mean it's not hard to be a teenager in this day and age.
I mean, feel your feels.
But it's definitely changed. And I can say it was a lot easier than I thought.
See, I'm so glad you're saying that because I remember saying that to you and you looking at me like I had horns or something. Like I was like big floppy ears or something. But it was true, right?
And strong. It wasn't easy, but it definitely was not what I thought it was going to be.
And again, here's the thing. Like I love children. Children get this way quicker than adults.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that children are the purest in their temperament until the world starts telling them different. And I've used this book with corporations. Like, even though it's done for, parents and children, I've actually used it in management and employee situations. But what I really can say now with all certainty, I've done this longer than my kids have been alive. So I can say now that I've watched it. I've watched children who have been immersed in the temperaments and what it has done in their lives. And that's why I was excited that you guys came when your children were little.
Yeah.
Because it changes the trajectory.
It really does.
It gives them authenticity. It helps them with teachers, with coaches.
Yeah,
it
so
helped
does.
my children, pick their colleges. It helped them pick their careers. And now my daughter's married. My son is engaged. It helped them pick their spouses. So I'm telling you, now that I've seen it, I even believe in it more.
Yeah.
My body went all goosebumps because this means so much to us as a family and us as a company. I love this so much, and we bring it up and we talk about it every day.
Every day. It's a part of how we communicate.
Every day. This morning, every day.
And that's where you're going to become fluent.
Yeah.
See, you're learning another language. It's no different than if you spoke French and I spoke German. The only way I can love you better is to become fluent
German.
at French
Yeah.
and you become fluent at German. Some at the beginning, remember, it did feel like that with you, Tracy. Like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm learning
Yeah.
it completely. But again, the more you used it, the easier it became.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say too that your Instagram and your social media posts
Yes.
are super helpful.
Oh, thank
right
you.
before Thanksgiving, it's like, if you have an in-law that is a red, say this. I'm like, okay, yes, thank you. I'll get on before holidays with family. I'm like, what has Kathleen said about Christmas?
I have a great team
That
puts
is,
all that
it's
in there.
awesome. They're very specific. Like,
Yes.
hey, you should ask your mother-in-law this.
Yeah.
You should ask your nephew that doesn't like you this. So, it just really helps. It gives me some tidbits on how people of different temperaments are receiving
Yeah.
these interactions and these social events.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for making the time
of
for
course.
us. I'd love to have you back.
I would love to be here for
See,
you.
now that's recorded, so
Yes.
you have to come back.
I can't back out. Well, like I said, I'm not retiring anytime soon.
And you're still offering online sessions, one-on-ones?
Yes, I mean there are some available.
Okay.
But we have a lot of fun things in the pipeline.
Oh,
so
awesome.
that are going to be coming out this year.
Good.
So working
Can't
on
wait.
that. Yeah.
We love to end all of our podcasts with a high five.
Okay.
Fist bump. Oh, mind blown. What an honor that was to spend an hour with Kathleen. And when Traci and I talk about we use this every day, we literally use it every day with work, with our fellow employees, with our children, in our marriage. It is such an incredible guide and gift to be able to be a good communicator. And you've had those conversations with people in your life, right? Where it's just like, man, that person is the real deal. And more than likely, they've spoke into your temperament. So if you like this episode, please share it with someone. And obviously, one thing that really helps us out a lot is if you know of someone that is in need of a roof repair, a gutter cleaning, a roof cleaning, a new roof replacement, that helps us pay for this podcast and be able to deliver it to the world. So would you tell someone about us or this podcast and let them know that we would love to help them with their roofing needs? We'll see you on the next episode